Welcome to this video. This video is going to be called 10 Seriously Overrated Guitar Players. What do you mean by seriously, Andy? What I mean by serious is this is serious. I have done this at another point, but it was a bit silly, I thought. A bit too silly. Now, this one is going to get silly, but some of the guitarists I picked on there is really just to get on people's nerves. It was a guitarist that I personally didn't like. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But I sat down over the last few days and I thought, who are the most really overrated guitarists? So for those people who don't understand the English language, I will now explain what overrated means, right? If I say a guitarist is overrated, they could still be good. You could still like them and you could still appreciate their talent. But what it means is their talent level is here, but the world sees them as being up here, right? So I'll give you now an actual practical example so you know what we're dealing with here, because this is the way I've done this one. If you go to the Rolling Stones list of the 500 greatest guitar players and you look at the top 100, that list is saying that out of all the millions of people that have picked up a guitar, including me and including some of you and all the people playing in all the various bands through history, all those millions and millions of guitarists, people who play classical guitar, jazz guitarists, all the guitarists in the whole, imagine them all now, millions of them, millions and millions and millions of guitarists. They've got millions of guitarists. You understand? Millions of these guitarists in the world, right? That list is representing the best 100, right? So on that list, when you go through that list, there's some players where you go, well, they're a really good player, and obviously they're there because they're famous. This is what happens. You get famous and you get on that list. But some of them are reasonably good guitar players. They did some interesting things. And also, because they were in famous bands, they had an opportunity to innovate. And that is where you give them a big tick. You know, and also people really love them. So that's all really great. So there is something about those. Just being on that list in the top 100 does elevate you against the great unwashed that all play the guitarists like you and me and all that type of stuff. Unless somebody is watching this like Richie Blackmore or something, which if you are, hello, Richie. So, I say Richie because he was so bloody low on that list. Anyway, that's the whole point, isn't it? He's underrated on that list, you know. When you get a list and you're looking at people like John McLaughlin and then they got Neil bloody Young above him.
Rock and roll is here to stay.
Don't worry, he's on the list. You're really in store for they're going to get a real bashing here. And this one is serious, right? I may be silly in the way I deliver it, but I'm serious about these. These are all massively overrated. And if I found him in that top 100 and I thought, well, they're just average guitar players, right? Because there's an argument that every single one on that list is overrated. But if they really are just not that great and they're in that top 100 list, they're on this list. Do you understand what overrated means now? If anybody puts a comment in where they go, I can't believe you said that, they're a great guitar player, blah, blah, blah. If you put that in, I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to just put in something like, what should I put to answer those types who don't understand it, who have probably not even listened to what I've said. They just looked at the list of different guitar players and got annoyed that their favourite guitar players in there. If you do that, I am going to put the word by a dictionary. That's what I'm going to put, so you'll know to go and look at what the word overrated means, because it doesn't mean worse, it doesn't mean bad. Does everyone understand that now? Have you all understand it? Everybody who's watching it now. And there'll be thousands watching this one, because this is the sort of thing that it brings the boys to the yard. This one does. You know, old Kelly's, it was her milkshakes that brought the boys to the yard. It's not like that with me. It's my overrated lists. At number 10, we're just going to start off straight easy, just so you can get in the mood for it, you know. So, you ready? This is a really easy one to do. We just go straight in and we'll go, yeah, that's pretty obvious, isn't it, you know. And it's so obvious that I wonder whether he is actually overrated. But I'm going to start there with him. He's only at number 10, so I'm only saying he's a little bit overrated. Some of you will think he's really overrated because, again, you will not understand what the word overrated means. It doesn't mean you don't like them, right? So, at number 10, I have, from Oasis, Noel Gallagher.
And I'm an arrogant bastard. Seriously.
A big cheer emerges throughout the world of progressive rock and jazz fusion and middle-aged men watching this channel because we all hate Oasis, don't we? We hate them rubbish yobby band. You know, it's like a bunch of football hooligans have formed a band from Manchester. That's the worst sort of band you could possibly have. None of us like it. I quite like Oasis. I didn't like them till I played an Oasis tribute band for a couple of years. And then I grew to like those songs and I thought, Noel Gallagher's a decent songwriter. Now, within that, he plays some functional guitar playing. He's not the best guitarist in the world. He can just about master the rock pentatonic and he can squirt out an average guitar solo, you know. But it's nothing special about it, but they do the job. They do the job. When I was in the Oasis tribute band, we had a guitarist in that band that was a bloody monster, a monster guitar player. And sorry about this, he had a ton more chops. And within those little gaps where Noel Gallagher's guitar solo would be, he would do much better guitar solos. I used to think, my God, you used to think how good Oasis would be if, you had a guitarist like this in. So he really is not that good. Now, what are we dealing with here? Oasis are one of the biggest bands in the world because they're so big and loads of people listen to them, especially kids who know nothing about guitar playing. They listen to someone doing a guitar solo. They have no idea what is hard or easy on the guitar. This is all really obvious stuff. This is where we start, just to lay the groundwork so we know what overrated means. And they listen to it. They think, well, he's doing a guitar solo. He's got some bendy sounds. It sounds really cool. I bet that would be hard to do. And they think he's a really good guitarist. And then he comes out the arrogant fellow that he is. And he's very opinionated. And he criticises everybody. Oh, I'm better than the Beatles. I'm better than the Rolling Stones. I'm better than this. And I'm better than that. And he criticises everything. And for people who are idiots, they think, oh, well, if he's criticising stuff, he must know what he's doing.
A good shovel up as well the night before.
So I think that sort of arrogance combined with the fact that their audience really does not really know anything about rock bands and never listen to any rock, not even Led Zeppelin or any of that lot. You know, this is a mainstream rock band, and that was Oasis's great strength. At the time in the mid-90s, when most people who were like going to football matches, just sort of working class in England, were listening to sort of dance music and stuff like that, they left rock bands behind many years before. And they actually brought that audience back in. And now that audience has stuck by them. And there's a whole generation of people who think that that's the greatest band. And then because they get into Oasis and then get into Stone Roses and then they go back and listen to Joy Division and The Cure and all like that. So they never come across a great guitar player. They don't know what a great guitar player is. And Noel Gallagher then captures a certain audience. Now, this thing is going to happen over and over again. It's right, really, and this is why I enjoy doing this, because I know I'm being an elitist now. You know, I do know about music, and a lot of you know about music, and we listen to incredible guitar players. And we know what great guitar playing is, or do we? Do you really have to have a ton of chops to be the greatest guitarist in the world? Well, for me, right, when you're playing a pop song like Oasis and you decide to pull a guitar solo in, you could either do what Carlos Santana does on those massive hit records and do a guitar solo, which might be quite straightforward, rock pentatonic, but has your own signature sound and has a touch that no one's ever got before, and that every note is infused with the emotional fire that's in your soul. Well, Noel Gallagher hasn't got that. They're workman-like guitar solos. All the bends are slightly out. He presses the guitar down a bit too hard. It's all doesn't sound quite in tune. Maybe he's got better as the years gone on. I don't know what he's like now, but in Oasis, he was all right. His functional guitar playing, he's not a great guitarist, but some people think he's a good guitarist. I don't think anyone thinks he's the greatest guitarist in the world, but I do think he's overrated, and so that's who I've got at number 10. Now it starts to get contentious, but I do believe all these guitarists on this list are overrated. So, number 9. In the 1980s, guitar playing all went up a notch. right? All these guitarists were coming out. Suddenly, heavy rock and heavy metal guitarists had listened to people like Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin. They'd taken all that on board, Alan Allsworth. They'd all got into that. And before you knew it, you had a guitarists like Uli John Roth, Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, and then John Sykes, and then Yngwie Malmsteen, and then your Steve Vais and your Joe Satriani's. And before you knew it, the technical ability of rock guitarists had gone through the roof. And they needed a gig, didn't they? They all needed a gig. And so they all headed over to whatever thrash metal band, or most likely some 80s hair metal band, and they joined those bands. And they all had incredible guitar players. Do you remember? You know, you put a Winger album on, or Poison, or whatever it is, or you know, there's guitarists like George Lynch and all these, you know, Rat and a whole bunch of bands with all these incredible guitar players on. And the music was fun-lovey party music, wasn't it? It was a great laugh, that stuff was. Nothing heavy, but if you're a musician, you could sit and, you know, listen to the very sexist lyrics and have a laugh. And then when you got to guitar solo, some virtuoso would come in and do something that you could take your face off. Do you remember that in the 1980s? I liked all that. Stick on MTV, you know, some like sort of girly boys come on with their great big hair and they're all singing about, you know, how they like to get drunk and, you know, chase some girls, you know. Let's go chasing girls. That could have been one of those songs. Let's go chasing girls. Gonna chase some girls. Gonna chase some girls. You know, all that type of thing. And then then it gets to the middle bit. You know, maybe there's a bridge. Oh, we're chasing girls. Oh, we're chasing girls. No. And then there's a good modulation here because they really know what they're doing. No. Yeah, the new key. No. All this stuff. You go, whoa, what else is going on here? Right. So we all know that. Have I established that in an animated form enough for you? I think I bloody have. Then Guns N' Roses come out and they just take over. And they are better. They're better than these hair metal. They're doing all that, you know. They've got the wrist array going on. They got the headbands, you know. They're doing all that thing that they do, you know. And they're great. I love that first Guns N' Roses album. I love it, but you know what I'm going to say?
Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed, Beggar's Banquet, and Exile on Main Street. Those 4 records in a row are pretty much the best, you know, my favorite music of all time.
Slash then becomes the guitarist, and Slash is a good guitarist. And when I first saw them on MTV doing Sweet Child of Mine, and they got to that guitar solo, I thought it was great, but it wasn't great because of Slash's guitar solo. It was great because of the arrangement going on behind Slash's guitar solo. Anybody that had the ability to bend a few notes down the bottom of the neck and then run up and bend a few notes at the top of the neck couldn't have pulled that one off, I'm afraid, because it's what's going on behind it. Any musician knows that. Now, for guitarists who are that good, they're probably quite impressed by Slash's chops, and he had a little bit of chops, but he was not in the same league as a Marty Freeman or a Jason Becker. He wasn't in the same league as any of those players that were playing in any of those rock or metal bands. There's a whole raft of them that were absolutely incredible. You know, George Lynch, Steve Lynch, you got Vinnie Moore, they were all doing stuff, weren't they? Absolutely incredible. Slash was not in that league, but the thing was, he had a top hat on and he couldn't see his eyes, and that was quite cool, wasn't it? And that was what it was really about. He'd got a very rock and roll mouth, that bloke, but then he got the dark sunglasses and the hair over his eyes. When I was a kid, we used to have a TV show called Hickory Dickory, I think it was, and there was this mop character in it, and he had like hair, and then he had like this red nose sticking out. So all he had was just a red nose and this long hair. That car, I can't remember what he was called. Dusty Mop, I think he was called, but he wasn't doing any dusting. He was a proper mop from the floor, so they got that wrong. But Dusty Mop, right? I didn't like him because when we got to the 1980s and I got into new wave of British heavy metal, I grew my hair longer because it was bushy and curly. Mine just came along like this. I don't know if you've noticed, my nose is aquiline and it's quite magnificent, really. I know that you don't get to see it, do you? I'll show you it again. So I know I've got a powerful nose. It's a very good nose. But back when you're at school having a big nose, they don't see it like that. Then no one's going, oh, I like Andy's aquiline nose. That's not what's happening. So I got called Dusty Mop. Then I got called Hair Bear from the Hair Bear bunch. And then I got called Bruno. Bruno from bloody Fame. I did look exactly like him at that point. I don't now, though, do I? Bloody... People are saying I look like Rolf Harris. In fact, you know that pointy beard I had? I chopped it off. Right, I do not delete comments on this channel, but I'm going to confess that if someone said I look like Rolf, I don't look like Rolf Harris. He's a bloody paedophile. What are you comparing me to that for? Bloody people. And if you do it now, I'm still just going to delete it. I thought I'm going to be upfront with it. Some clever viewer worked it out. I had a conversation with it, and I thought I must look. I don't want to look like Rolf Harris. I'd rather look like Bruno. I didn't like it at the time I was walking home with school. Everyone was shouting Bruno and spitting at me. But I'd rather have that now. At least it's a bit of attention, isn't it? Slash, good guitarist, nowhere near all his fellow 80s hairy hair metal rock guitarists at the time. Really low on the bar when it comes to that. But because the band was liked by everybody and liked by people that really don't know how to play the guitar properly, they think he's bloody brilliant and a genius when he's not. He's an okay guitar player. Right, this one at number 8 is a guitarist I really like. And I didn't know whether to put them on, but I have. At number 8, I've got John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Feel it a sliding wheel.
Now, let's just step back, shall we? The Red Hot Chili Peppers emerged mid-80s, early 80s. They're combining funk and metal. They're a party band. They're quite silly. They're quite fun. And at the time when the 80s was very serious, they're playing rock and funk and punk, and it's quite exciting. They get to, because they're like Hollywood boys, they get, in various films before they're famous, that one with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas. You know that one? What was that one called? Anyway, they're in that film. And they sort of get on the scene, and they're interesting band. They're good players as well. They are good players. They're not jazz virtuosos, but they're good players. Hillel Slovak is their guitarist, and he's really great. But the trouble is, they're into the old heroin a little bit too much. And in 1987, I think Hillel died. And so they go searching for a guitarist. And they basically find this guy who is a Hillel freak, John Frusciante. Now, John Frusciante has been to music college. He can play anything. He's into Frank Zappa. He's into all the weird stuff. Now, I didn't know whether to buy that album because I was right in a sort of jazz fusion hell in the mid-80s, and I knew I was stuck in it, and I kept going down to the record shop and I kept going and buying a John Patitucci album or something like that. I'd take it home, I'd get it in on import, it costs a load of money, and I go, yeah, it's all really great, but I'm hungry for something else, and I decided to go and get into the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I thought, I need something a bit more rock and roll. So Mother's Milk had come out, so I went down to the shop and I looked at Mother's Milk and I opened it up. And in there, John Frusciante thanked a whole bunch of guitar players and musicians, and he named his influence. I thought that's really good, and so I bought the album. I thought John Frusciante's guitar playing on Mother's Milk was really great, really fluid out there, really, really interesting player. And then as time went on, he starts to strip down his guitar playing, and all that virtuoso roots that he does have, he starts to work against. Now, he's since gone on to become one of those sort of stripped down, like, a sort of guitarist that I sort of champion. He's not going for perfection. He's going for more feel and vibe. Now, he's a very strange character that didn't seem to enjoy being in the biggest band in the world and having all that money. So he decided to ensconce himself in the world of heroin for a number of years, nearly dying at one point. But then he seems to get fed up with that, and he's come back into the band. And he's still there, although he lost all his teeth and half the skin of his arms from various horrible illnesses he got from being a drug addict. And that's given him a little bit of, he's dark, and, whereas the Red Hot Chili Peppers are all fun-loving and jumping about, aren't they? He's the dark one in the band. Now, I'm going to put my neck out because I like Frusciante. I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, especially in the early days. And I always thought, this guy can really play the guitar. I know I can't really hear it on these records, but he is doing some interesting stuff. There's some cool riffs there, and there's some real sort of dirty blues guitar. But, you know, I know he can play that stuff if he wanted to. Well, I don't think he can now. I think I was wrong. I think I'd read his biography and decided that there was more to it than there's actually there. I really do. And I think he's quite a good guitarist. I think there's an ambience around him that he is greater than he is now. I'm starting to think, because I've listened to so much of him. I think Frusciante is a little bit overrated, and I think it's a little bit of the Emperor's New Clothes. And I think if you go back and listen to what he's doing on Mother's Milk, when it's much more sort of smoother legato, chopsy guitar playing, it's still not. It's not incredible. For me, Frusciante does lack a sort of little bit of individuality, which he makes up from being a bit out there, you know, and playing guitar solos with weedy little tinny guitar sounds and not getting his bends right. Well, that's all well and good, but I always think you should try and get your bends right. So that's who we've got at number 8. I'll put that out there. John Frusciante, I think there's a whole bunch of people that don't realise how good he is because he's in a massive band, and don't realise that he did go to music college. I think he was an ex-Berkeley student, and he can play and read. And he there's a video out there somewhere I saw where he's playing the very difficult instrumental section from Inca Roads, which is really difficult to play. But then when you listen to it, he's not playing it that well, is he? So, I don't know. But then there's the people on the other side that I think if you listen to it, you know about guitar playing. I don't know. And then when you look at the bands that they came out and you compare them to the guitarist saying Fishbone, that guy's on another level, really, to me. I don't know. That's what my ears tell me. Frusciante, I don't know. I don't know about it. I'll put it low down. I'm only saying he's a little bit overrated, but I do think he's overrated. At number 7, right, I've got Johnny Marr from The Smiths.
It was like, wow, check out how awesome I am. Whoa, whoa, man. Are these my fingers? Whoa, I'm amazing. I just went, fuck it.
Oh, Andy, you big jazz snob. How can you put Johnny Marr down? He's such a great guitar player. I know he's not playing like Alan Holdsworth, but the thing with the Smiths is those guitar parts are so imaginative. And that's, you know, it's like a lot of the time, the hook in the tune's coming from Johnny Marr. Well, great, yeah, good. Like every other guitarist in the world, right? Just because he plays a little bit of finger picking here and he's got a few arpeggios in it, he doesn't strum open chords, we're supposed to think he's a genius. And these guitar parts are good. He created unique guitar parts, as did Andy Summers, as did The Edge. They all do it. Why are we singling out Johnny Marr? I'll tell you why. Because at that time, he had a bunch of shoegazy bands that just had a ton of distortion and then strummed open chords, and we were all supposed to think they were brilliant because they were Sonic Explorers, bloody Thurston Moore, Sonic Youth. You know, even I, as a pretentious teenager, said I like Sonic Youth, but I didn't really like them. I just said them because I thought it was cool to like them. I'll say it now, right? But then I look at Sonic Youth. I mean, Thurston Moore. Should I scrub Johnny Marr? Because he's a better example of it. Thurston Moore. Anybody can do all that. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I wasn't prepared for Thurston Moore. It just popped into my head. But again, you know, I hate these upper middle class educated kids who've got posh parents that work in universities or work in the music business, and they have it all thrown. They're brought up to be these little sort of anarcho-communists, and Thurston Moore's one of those. I don't think Johnny Marr is, to get back on the subject in hand, but with Johnny Marr, what you've got is he's like, why can't he make friends with Morrissey? Why are they so bloody special?
If it's the case that he's pro-Farage, and then, you know, there would be a sort of slight kind of drawback in that, I think.
What's so special about them? Right, it's good. Johnny Marr did some good guitar parts, but he did guitar parts that any self-respecting 60s guitarist would have done. It was just in the 70s, everyone started to play power chords and Smoke on the Water and all that bit. And you had all that history. So when the 80s come in and he starts to go back to sort of that 1960s tinkly sound, everyone thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread, but it really isn't. This is the emperor's clothes of all rock music that came in after punk. Right, we're supposed to think it's great, even though it's not great. Because what we can't have are musicians that make the audience feel inferior because they can't understand it. right? So in the 80s, you had two things going on. You had really crass party rock bands with amazing musicianship in, right? Or you had these super cool blokes stood there with their all back coat and their long coats on, looking all moody and playing stuff that anybody can play with a few open chords. And then when the guitarist could actually attempt to do this, and this has been the same thing all the way through. Look at that bloke who played in Stone Roses. You know, you could just about have the guitar solo. And then everyone thinks he's the bee's knees. At one point in the 90s, there's this guitarist called Steve Craddock, and he was in the band Ocean Colour scene, right? And he was getting picked up by Paul Weller. He was playing on everything because he could play some guitar solos. Everyone thought he was the bee's knees. It's the Emperor's Clothes. I had this band at the time full of a load of sort of drugged up hippie types who could really bloody play. We listened to Mavish Orchestra, we listened to Weather Report, we got all that down. And at that point, we had some sort of trippy Hawkwind Gone thing going on. And we had this guy that would blow a didgeridoo and create these modes. And then we were just coming, playing on tom sixes over the top. And somehow we got the support slot with bloody Ocean Colour scene with this Steve Craddock. So we get there, and they have to set up first. So he puts all his guitars out. We're supposed to be really impressed because he's got about 30 guitars. And he's got his Les Paul, he's got his SG, he's got his Strat, he's got them all there, brilliant. And then my mate gets up, Paul, and he's got like a 40-quid guitar that he's stuck Danger Mouse stickers all over. He's got his hair down to his things, all matted, you know. And we look like real. I mean, I look more respectable now, but I didn't then, right? And these guys are all thinking they're the bee's knees, right? And then we start to sound check. And they saw my mate Paul, who was standing somewhere between Richie Blackmore, Django Reinhardt, and Alan Holdsworth, if you can imagine putting all that together. And he starts playing. I look over this Steve Craddock bloke, and his jaw's like... They're literally like that. Now, to be fair to them, after that, then they came up and told us we were great, and they put us into their dressing room, and we had a nice time with them, and their drummer was a lovely man. And they were very nice to us, to be very fair to the Ocean Colour scene chaps. They were very nice to us. And they got these beer bottles, and they couldn't open the beer bottles. And I thought, having a little bit of knowledge of this sort of rock and roll world, right, that I thought I had then, that I could put the beer into the door. You know, you know the bit where the little lock bit goes in? You can theoretically put that in and pull it, and then you open the beer bottle. And I'd seen it on some rock and roll documentary, and I thought, I will get kudos with this band that's bigger than us by being able to open the beer bottles. So I said, don't worry, you know, we don't need a bottle opener. I'll just open the door. The bloke said, well, can you do that? I went, yeah, of course I could. Stick the bottle in the door, pulled it, it explodes and squirts straight into my crotch area, making it look like I wet myself. So I then had to go on stage and play our anarcho bloody modal trippy jazz fusion to a bunch of indie guitar fans, indie music fans that didn't get it, looking like I wet myself. Steve Craddock was a nice guy, to be honest, a lovely guy. But they're just good. He'd say it himself if he was here. He knows who Alan Holdsworth is, right? This is the big thing. I want to get it across here. Now, nobody says it. It's the Emperor's Clothes. The best musicians are not the musicians you think they are. The general public hasn't got a clue. right? They can like the music they like, and they can go and sit on X Factor and think they're all amazing singers just because they can sing and hold a note. That's what the general public are. They ain't got a clue about music. Nobody has. Unless you're a musician, you're trained, you know what music is. You haven't got a clue. You think you have, but you haven't. Like what you like, but don't think that just because you like something, it means they're brilliant musicians. That does not go with the turf. And we got to talk about the turf here. And the turf now is moving to 80s thrash metal bands. Same thing. Megadeth had Marty Friedman on guitar. What a ridiculous guitar player he was. But who did Metallica have on guitar and lead guitar? Kirk Hammett.
Because I came from nothing, for the week. Right. I'll say it. There were a lot of unsavory characters, and if they saw covered up with a garbage bag and make it look like it was just a bag of garbage, it's I feel the love, and there's all this talk about extraterrestrials. They might be clued into our music too, and that's even more trippy to think about. Really does.
Now, Kirk Hammett, because Metallica are the biggest rock band in the world, right? They've gone down as being like this incredible band. Now, everyone wants to have a go at Lars Ulrich because, of course, Lars Ulrich didn't even play the drums when they started Metallica. He's learnt it as he went. He was the energy source of the band. We know he's not that good. But by the time they do Massive Puppets, he's playing some decent drumming. But Kirk Hammett, because he had lessons off Joe Satriani, everyone thinks he's a proper guitar player. I don't think he is. I don't think he's a very good guitarist. He just does not have the sound of someone who's competent. You could tell he's worked out his guitar solos. He's pulled them all out. His sound is always really weedy and thin. He does all the most obvious things every now and then because the song... If you've got a great song, and they are great songwriters, Metallica, that's why they're so much bigger than Anthrax and, Slayer and Sepultura, because they ended up writing really good songs, and that's what they got going for them. And in that respect, Kirk Hammett is a good band player. But as a guitarist, I don't think he's that musical. And this really got bore out when he brought his solo album out. And I went and checked it out, and I thought, here he is. He's got a deal. Everyone's going to buy this. He said it gives me a chance to really play the guitar. I didn't listen to it. And I can't hear the music in it. I'm being harsh on the bloke, and I like Metallica, and I feel mean saying it. But to my ears, he doesn't sound that great. He doesn't have that natural ability that sounds like you can play the guitar with ease and the music's just coming out of you. So I'm not going to knock Kirk Hammett much. I'm going to save it up to number 5. Now, there's a whole bunch of guitarists that could have occupied this space, but I'm really going to have a go at him because I'm sick to death of hearing about him. And this is Neil Young. Neil Young, right? Now, he can write a good song. Even I can hear that. If you put Harvest on, there's some good songs on there. Let's just take the songwriting out of it. As a singer, he's awful. Really horrible, whiny little voice, right? Now, the thing that bugs me is when somebody goes, I do like Neil Young's guitar playing. Like, I do you? Yeah, oh, yeah. I know it's not polished, but that's what I like about it. It's really raw. He just plays from what he feels. He just feels it, and I love it when he does that. He doesn't care. He just puts it out there. I would have thought you'd like that, Andy. Right? Now, I don't believe in this. Right? Neil Young's guitar solos just sound like pants to me. They are pants. Proper big Y fronts, and they've got skid marks in them. That's the sort of pants that he is. He's poo pants McGee. That's what I would call him. Not Neil Young, right? Not Neil Young. I would call him Poo Pants McGee. I'd say, Poo Pants, what the hell are you doing there? Strangle out the guitar? What's it done to you? He hasn't harmed you. Why are you doing that for? Wouldn't it be easy to just pick up a cat, mic the cat up and strangle that? Because that would sound even better than what you're doing. And he'd turn around and go, you can't say that to me, with his weedy voice. He's American though, isn't it? You can't say that to me. I'm Neil Young and I'm a brilliant player and I write good songs and I play for the heart. I don't know what this voice is I'm doing. It's not Neil Young, is it? How do I imagine Neil Young talking? I know he sings high up, but I don't think he talks high up, does he? Because he strains when he sings. Sounds like he's on the toilet with constipation. Imagine someone on the toilet with constipations whilst trying to strangle a cat that's been mic'd up, and that's Neil Young. And we're supposed to think this is great. Now, I'm going to tell you some truth here on this stupidness, right? Because he doesn't even deserve a decent bloody appraisal, Neil Young does. Can't stick it. It's like a con to me. It's like a massive con. Now, this is the con in terms of the guitar playing, the guitar solos, right? If you want to put across emotion on your instrument, okay, that requires some level of skill. So it doesn't mean the worse you are, the more emotion. It's not like emotion technique. The technique is there for you to be able to express emotion. All right. So what I mean by that is that if you gave someone a trombone and they never played the trombone and said, just play anything on it, and they'll wait, why I can't play? Just blow into it and move the thing up and down randomly. And what will come out of it is your emotion. Right? No, it won't. Anybody that's got a logical brain or a pair of ears, or those two things working together in a reasonable order, that hasn't been conned by a bunch of pretentious middle-class music critics in the 1970s, 80s that made them think that this is good guitar playing because it's raw and visceral, right? It's not. There are raw and visceral guitar players, but they have a touch on their instrument. Kirk Hammett has a touch on his instrument. He has there's an architecture there. There's something great about it. I knocked Thurston Moore earlier on it, but I mean, he has got it. He's able to do these great big blocks and control it, and he's worked at it. Neil Young doesn't sound like that. Neil Young just sounds like a great big shit. I got quite reasonable then. There was some proper pushback. But you can't have proper pushback. You have to sometimes be happy with that type of pushback when it comes to people like this. You know, say what you see. You will say what you hear at least. Bloody Neil Young, you know, some okay. And then people go, yeah, well, I like Rocking in the Free Will. No, you don't. I mean, look at the rock songs that are out there. Go and listen to Bloodsucker by Deep Purple. Or go and listen to bloody Fairies Wear Boots by Black Sabbath. Or go and listen to Immigrant Song. They're rock songs. You know, not that. Rock the... Oh, my God. What is it with Neil Young? What do people like about it? Right, what I think they like about it is just easy listening songs. It's just pants. It's the sort of stuff that you get, you know, stick Radio 2 on in the UK and you get, you know, especially in the 1970s, you get this middle-of-the-road pap coming out. And some of the middle-of-the-road pap is really well played. I mean, I have this I'll go off on a tangent here because who cares, you know. The other day, I was perusing YouTube and I saw a video and it was titled James Last Plays Silver Machine by Hawkwind. Well, I had to click on it. I'll put a bit on now. to me is bloody good music. And James Last, all the Nans listened to James Last in the 1970s, right? He was the king of corn. When he was dying, someone went up to him and said, you're going to die being called the king of corn. You know, what do you think? And he goes, don't mind it, because I am. I like that. We're not trying to be Johnny Marr, not trying to be all pretentious, just making some decent music, and you don't care that the Nans will like. But the fact is, I went and checked him out the other day. He's bloody amazing. It's like the inverse of Frank Zappa. It's like Frank Zappa is really high-end art music, but he's got all this comedy in there, so it sort of upturns. Well, James Last is middle-of-the-road Nan music, but within this are these incredible arrangements and these funky grooves. So James Last is good, but you don't realise he's good. But he is good. But Neil Young's not good. I promise you he's not good. He's just not good. I don't care whether you like him. You like him in the same way that people just listen to Pap. You know, yes, sir, I can boogie. That's better than Neil Young. It's a better song. That is a better song. It's pants. It's not intellectual. It just is what it is. You know, I like to move it. I like all these are pop songs, right? They're all great songs. Neil Young writes songs that are like that, but they're middle of the road for people who've got no ear and don't want anything that's groovy or funky or that shakes their foundations. They just want something. It's white people's music. I can rock it in the free world. People clap on the 1 and 3. Oh, rocking in the free world. It's the downfall of all music. It's what I hate in music. And yet we're supposed to bow down to it and think it's really bloody good. Right, just go and listen to country music. That's the same thing, but by decent people. And listen to Kenny Rogers. He can write a decent song, although he probably didn't write them. But he tells a story. There's something that Neil Young doesn't sing, Rockin' in the Free World. Why does he want to rock in the free world for? And then that thing when he got all grumpy with Spotify. I ain't going on Spotify anymore because they don't pay any money out. Yeah, they don't pay any money out to someone who's made millions and millions of pounds. And there's now the record company stuck their thing on all your records on there and they're making money and giving you 50%. You don't like it. Old man from the old world of old rock, Neil Young. That's the worst thing. He never does kneel. He probably can't kneel down to save his life. And if he did kneel down, you know what he'd be kneeling down to do? You know, to pray that he can get a little bit more money out of his catalogue. Well, you know, obviously. And Young, he's not young, he's old. He was all right when he was young to be called Neil Young. What else can I criticise him on? Don't like his haircut. He's got long hair and it was too frizzy, wasn't it? He needs a bit of hot oil treatment on it. Always looked a bit too frizzy, didn't he? Don't like him. I don't like Neil Young. He's probably a nice man. If I met him, I'd probably get on with him. But I don't like him. That's the bottom line. What have we got at number 4? At number 4, we've got, from The Who, Pete Townshend.
How would you fix them?
With glue. No, I did. I used to glue guitars together.
So you break them, then glue them back, and then...
Yeah. When we first came to New York, we did a thing called the Murray the K Show, where we had to do 4 shows in a day.
Yeah.
And I only had the one guitar, so I had to break it and fix it 4 times a day. And in the end, it was kind of more glue and string than guitar.
Then it wasn't anything. You're like, this is already broken. I'm so sorry.
You know, I don't apologise for this.
You know, I like The Who, and I like Pete Townshend. I don't want to criticise Pete Townshend. He is a little bit of a genius, but he's not a genius guitar player. What he is a genius for having the band The Who and being able to sort of have a vision for that band out of all these weird elements that pull those together and create things like Tommy. When he's off thinking of things like Tommy, he's great. He's really great. But as a guitar player, he has been swept up in that group of guitarists that includes Jimmy Page, Ritchie Blackmore, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, all those British... I know Jimi Hendrix wasn't, but all those London-based 60s guitarists that sort of really invented rock guitar. And Pete Townshend gets swept up in that. But why? Why does he? You know, the guitarist of the Kinks never did. So why did Pete Townshend? Why has Pete Townshend been... And I tell you why. It's because of the bloody idiots making the judgment, you know. They think if you jump up and down a lot and then just you do that thing with your arm like that, round and round, you know, that makes you a good guitar player. Think about it. If you can play the parts to your guitar whilst making your arm go round and round in a circle like that, if you can play the parts whilst doing that like that, if you can play the parts to your song, how hard do you think they are? I bet Johnny Marr couldn't play his parts whilst doing that. Of course he couldn't, because they're harder than Pete Townshend's guitar parts because they're so simple and basic. He hasn't got a particularly nice guitar sound. He just basically slashes his way through. And then, you know, somehow that seems to fit in with the busy, all over the place, Busy Bee playing of John Entwistle. Then Keith Moon's bonkers drumming. And it all comes together. It's genius. I love it. I love them. I love them. But when it comes... I mean, this is why he smashed his guitar up. I'm not surprised he smashed his guitar up. You know, could you imagine being, you know, you're Pete Townsend, you're playing in London, you got Jeff Beck there, you got Clapton's over there, you got Jimi Hendrix coming on the scene, and then you've got to do a guitar solo. What are you going to do? They're all looking at you. What are you going to do when you're Pete Townsend? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to have a strop and smash your guitar up. That's what you're going to do, just to get out of it. That's how you get out of things when you don't want to do them, isn't it? Just have a tantrum. Always the best thing. If you ever get stuck in life and you've been cornered, and, you know, someone's asking you questions, you can't answer it, or they've got you nailed, smash something up. It's always the best way to go, because what it does, it takes the people's minds off it. I've used this a million times in my life. Just smash something up, get, you know, punch your hand through a door or a wall. And that's why people do stuff like that, don't they? Because they can't actually come up with a cogent argument or cogent guitar solo. Right? Pete Townsend is just, I mean, he was just there, wasn't he? He was there, wasn't he? That's what he was. He was there. They just happened to be there. If you're in London in 1964, right, playing rock music, and you're quite posh, so your mum and dad can buy you a decent guitar and a Marshall amp, anything you would have done at that time would have got signed, and we'd all be going on about it's the greatest thing in the world. Because whatever you did was going to be good. You know, you could write a song about anything, about how you like baked beans. You know, you can sit there with your chords and go, I like baked beans, don't know what it means, to have some baked beans on some toast, better than a Sunday roast, we're cool and mod like, you know, that type of thing. You knew you were going to get a deal, weren't you? Weren't you? Think about it. Right, I forgot what I was doing there. Right, these top three are this is the holy trinity of overrated now. This is why I wanted to do this, because I didn't feel I got this nailed on. I've done this before, it's had millions of views, but I just didn't feel it was right. This is right, every guitarist on here is actually overrated. There were some ones on my last list and I thought, you shouldn't have done that, Andy. You were just trying to go too far and you know, and you were pushing this over. The idea of overrated, you're pushing it too far. And this is just straight down the line. And these top three, this just really, in all three of them, it exposes something about the music industry in every single one of these. They're all really famous, right? They're all known to everybody. They've all sold millions of records, and they are overrated, right? Now, at number 3, I have John Mayer.
And the shares could be, we can up them to about another 22%.
Okay, folks, here we are in a corporate boardroom. You can see people behind us working in the bullpens, and right now a meeting is in progress. We want to see what happens when you play electric guitar in the most professional of settings. Ready, John? Okay, cool. Go. I knew it.
So, there were these people in America called black people. And they had it rough. But because they had it rough, they need to express themselves. And they express themselves with a form of music called the blues. And the blues totally feeds into commercial recording music in the 20th century and becomes the underpinning songwriting approach which just busts music open. And this is dark, raw music. This is people singing about being hobos, sleeping on the floor. You know, they're talking about drinking bloody canned heat or whatever they do with well, I don't know what blues people do, but it's all bloody dark and there's a darkness and a danger to it. and they walk around almost like sort of mythical characters, blues musicians. Don't you think of T-Bone Walker, or you think of think of Robert Johnson? Sold his soul to the devil on the. This is what the blues is. It's dangerous, isn't it? Then, in the 1960s, a whole bunch of white people in America, middle-class people, went to art college and go, I really quite like listening to the blues. Do you want to be listening to? I've been listening to Blind Lemon Jefferson. Oh, I like the name of that, Blind Lemon Jefferson. I know, because my name is Sebastian Pooey. And I'd rather be called Blind Lemon Jefferson. But you're not blind. Yes, but I own a lemon. So... that is basically the blues then subverts itself through these sort of middle-classy types. No problem with that. It creates rock music. We all like it. We all know it's there. Now, none of these people can play the blues like bloody T-Bone Walker or, Albert King or Freddie King or B.B. King, but not Billie Jean King. They could probably beat her, but they couldn't beat her at tennis. And that's the way the world is. This is the wisdom you get here. Anyway, that's by the by. The point is that they're not as good. And then suddenly we get Clapton, then we get Peter Green, and we get a whole bunch of blues guitarists come out. And they're very, very good. There's a whole raft of them. And I like them very much. Right? I like them very much. Then guitar. I'm having to do the whole history of why John Mayer is the worst thing in the world, right? You've got to understand this. Then rock sort of starts to develop, and the guitar moves on, and the technique comes in, and you start getting all the John McLaughlin's, the Aldi Meolas, and then you get the metal guitarists, and they're all doing that type of stuff. And then it goes all avant-garde. You've got drum and bass and jungle. Imagine you go through rock history. There's like a montage going on now, right? And then you arrive at a certain point in the late 2000s where all the guitar players are listening to Marty Friedman and Jason Becker, and they're listening to Richie Kotzen, and that's all gone like that. I'm that generation. We were all listening to that. And then Robert Cray comes out. And Robert Cray is playing proper blues guitar with edge and dirt, and it's like just feel. And everyone goes, oh, have you heard Robert Cray? And then Stevie Ray Vaughan comes out, and he's a white bloke, but he looks terrible, doesn't he? He's got some 80s purple suit on with a cowboy hat that doesn't match, right? But he's just screaming on the guitar. And then Jeff Healey comes out, and he can't even see like this. He doesn't even know what he looks like. He's got a mullet. You know you got a mullet? I didn't even know what a mullet is. And he's playing the guitar on his lap like that, and he gets up and he walks around like this, stamping around like that, and then he falls off the stage and you can't see anything. Absolutely amazing. These guitarists are amazing. You go, oh, these white guys, they can play the blues. Well, Jeff Healey probably didn't even know if he was white or black, so even in that position, it doesn't matter, does it? But these are great, and I loved them. I bought all those albums. Then Johnny Lang comes out. Now, Johnny Lang is like this great guitar. He comes out and he can play the blues a little bit. He's not got quite the bite of these Steve Ray Vaughan types. But what he has got is cheekbones. And he invents, Johnny Lang, he's not even got the credit for it. Cheekbones blues, white blues guitar, right? Johnny Lang created it. It's a genre, right? And then the race starts to happen. They're all trying to get there. Now, here in the UK, you get the likes of Ainsley Lister. There was a guitarist just up the road from me called Ian Parker, and I was his drummer. I played with Ainsley Lister. Then they moved on to the girls. And I played with Ian Parker, I played with Joanne Shaw Taylor, and this whole thing emerges. Now, what I'm saying is, there's all these players in this circuit, and they're all very good. They're all very good. Some of them are a bit bland, like Joe Bonamassa. He's a bit bland, but he can really bloody play the guitar. And then you have people like Walter Trapp who's lived it. They have lived the blues life, and they just come out and it's just pure dirt. There's all these different players out there. Then you got guys like Bernard Allison that really, they just go right back to the source. And I love them all. I even like Samantha Fish when she comes out, Samantha Fish. Because she's got the little short skirts on, she's lovely legs. I mean, in terms of, she's replaced the cheekbones with the lovely legs. And also with Samantha Fish, I like the fact that she's kept the fish motif going, really coming from sort of like Walter Trout. There's a whole bunch of, fish-based blues guitarists out there, and I've got a theory about this. I won't say them all. You can put them down below, but there's a whole bunch of them if you start thinking about it. Fishy themed, and Samantha Fish just goes straight for it, that. And anyway, I'm talking nonsense here, but my point is there's a whole raft of blues guitarists who are playing sort of solely based pop blues that have got cheekbones. So why John Mayer? Because John Mayer has just crossed over into the mainstream. He sells out huge stadiums. He even crops up on TV shows. Do you remember when Dave Chappelle decides to take the mickey out of white music? Who does he pull in to represent white music? John Mayer. I'm like, what? I don't want you to have John Mayer representing me and my music. My white music. I don't want him in there. You could have got someone else, like Bartok or somebody like that. But no, you go for John Mayer because he's got his little shirt with his all open like that, and he's got his floppy black hair and his cheekbones, and and he can pull together a tasty guitar. So he can. He ain't Noel Gallagher. He can play, without a doubt. He can play. He can sing. He can do it all. But why him? Why him? Why is it the net result when you pour all this in the 20th century, all that blues in, you pour it all in, and what comes dripping out at the end of it? Bloody John Mayer. Isn't that just a testament to how awful capitalism is? I mean, I like capitalism. You know where I come from. But when I think about it like that, is that the best we can come up with all of that? We take all of that and chuck it in the great big sieve, and who comes dropping out at the end of it? Bloody John Mayer. It's just awful. It's like if IKEA made a blues musician. I don't even know what I should call him, a blues musician, John Mayer. Right? He's an okay player. He's a good player. He can play some licks without a doubt. The thing that really annoys me about the blues is that if you get a jazz guitarist like Scott Henderson, or maybe John Schofield or Mike Skirt, if you've got somebody who can really play and say play the blues, they're going to take your face off. Robin Ford, they're going to take your face off. The best blues guitarists and jazz fusion guitarists, that's the bottom. It's now, if you really want to hear it. It's just been all sublimated, right? John Mayer can't play bloody jazz. That's the bottom line. I think that all musicians should be awarded and ranked on their ability to play jazz. That's what I think. And I think if you can't play jazz, then I think someone should come around and take the instrument off you, because there's so many instrumentalists out there just spoiling it for the people who can actually play. You know, with their rubbish, we'll play for free. You know, I'm into John Mayer because I know nothing. We'll come down your pub and play for free. They should have the instruments taken off them, I think, because they're spoiling us all as proper musicians. We ain't got a career anymore. I'm having to do stupid YouTube videos now rather than just go out and play the drums, which is what I train myself to do. You know, but of course you've got a load of people who like John Mayer. And number 2 on my list of seriously overrated guitarists. Not just overrated, this is a serious list. That's why I got the word seriously. That's the clue. Clues in the title there. It's very simple if you want to study what's going on here. I've thought it all through. I know what I'm doing. At number 2, I've got Prince.
We went up there. We get there, put the tracks on tracks, we're slamming. You know what I mean? We listening to the music and everything. We grooving at the crib. They got girls over there. We had a nice environment. It was tight.
This bores me. Is anyone up for a game of basketball? How about you and your friends versus me and the revolution?
I love Prince. Prince is an incredible singer. He's an incredible songwriter. He can play all the instruments. He's really, really great. He writes great songs. He can dance. He can jump around. He's a beautiful man, albeit very small. When you go to see someone live on stage, they all look small, and that doesn't matter if you're just a few inches smaller than the average human, because it doesn't matter then, because you're so far away that you don't really notice it, you know. And in some way, if you put someone on the big video screen and they're a little bit small, you can get more of them in the screen, can't you? You know, a lot of people on television are little, aren't they? Because they look better on camera. So Prince looks fine on camera. You haven't got an idea. He was only 5'2" or something. So he was really, really small. And I don't want to use the fact he was small against him. I'm not going to. I know it seems like like I am right at the moment, in a sort of subliminal way, by saying I'm not going to do it and then keep going on about how small he was. But that's not the point, is it? The point is that the world thinks that Prince is the amazing guitar player, and because he knows all his stuff and he can arrange and he's got all these chops, you know, and all that type of thing that he's got, people think he really can play the guitar, like he's one of the greatest guitar players in the world, and he really isn't. I'll tell you what Prince is. He's a guitarist that's copped his style from Carlos Santana and Jimi Hendrix. Put those two things together, he's not as good as either of those. He's got a horrible tone, right? He hasn't got much control over the notes, right? His bends are all a bit out. He's a bit fumbly in his picking, all right? It's not that pretty. Now, at some point, and I think with Prince is, as I've got older, I've realised he's a bit, I think he was a bit of an egomaniac, and that's why he controlled everything. Have you ever seen that video when James Brown's out there and he calls Michael Jackson up, and Michael Jackson just comes up and naturally is a musical genius. I mean, it's all off the cuff, and they go, get Jackson up. James Brown, get Jackson up. Get Michael up here. Now, come on, Michael. And Michael gets up and he starts to do his James Brown. He's singing like him and he's doing all the dance moves. It's really amazing. Then they get Prince up, don't they? And you can tell Prince has to try and outdo James Brown. He thinks he can outdo James Brown and Michael Jackson, which he might have been able to do. So he starts doing the splits and everything. Then he tries to get a guitar, but the guitar's got no sound. He can't play it. And he's fumbling around just trying to outdo him, and he can't. And so he decides to go off dancing, and he goes and swings onto some, like, post. Like, I've got a post here. See that post? Where is it? Where's my post? Right, there's my post there. So you imagine a post, that post looks solid, doesn't it? It looks solid, right? Well, he thinks there's a solid post, so he swings off around it, and it's not solid, it's just a prop, and he just falls back into the audience. And when I saw that, I thought, why are you even bothered to get up and do this for? Because you wanted to be the best, didn't you? And so you fast forward a few years later, he's up on stage and they're doing My Guitar Gently Weeps, aren't they? They're all up there playing it and singing it, all the greats up there. And he steps forward and you can tell he's showboat. He's taken over. You go, I don't care what the arrangement is rehearsed. I'm going to do a guitar solo now. And he goes through a perfunctory guitar solo. But it just sounds a bit fumbly. It's got some nice moments. He can convey some emotion. There's something there. But it's not that good, really. Honestly, I promise you, it's not that good. Now, what's going on here? Well, what you got with Prince is he's a pop performer. He sings and he plays a lot of instruments, you know. So there's a lot of people like this, isn't there? Who's that martial arts bloke? You know the one. He does guitar solos, doesn't he? I was going to go into a funny section here, but it was the funny section I was about to go into, which I'm ready to go into, is all dependent on me actually being able to remember the name of the person. And as I get older, if I want to remember something, the fact that I want to remember it, it's a bit like quantum physics, this is. The fact that I want, do you have this? It's like you go, this bit's going to be funny, but I have to remember the name of it. It's not Chuck Norris, it's not Bruce Lee, it's that other one, you know, the funnier one. You know the bloke, he does guitar solos. So now I'm just faffing around. I'm going to pause and try and think who it is. I have just spent 20 minutes walking around this building trying to find somebody who knew some 80s martial artists just for this bit of the video because it was doing my head in. How much longer time? Oh, God, so sorry about that. Anyway, the martial artist I was trying to think of was Steven Seagal. Was it even worth it now? I've even forgot what I was saying now. I've been down upstairs. I found this young guy. I've mentioned, of course, he's young. He didn't know anything about anything, so that was no good. And then I found this woman, and she was like got a broken arm, was talking to a duck, and I thought, nah, she probably wouldn't know. And then I found my friend Tom, who is used to lecturing media, and straight away he said Dolph Lundgren. I said, no, not that one. He went Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal. So if we take Steven Seagal, for example, he plays guitar, and he's quite a good guitar player. You would never rubbish his guitar playing. Was this really worth it, Andy? What the hell are you doing? Just keep going now. You've lost your thread, haven't you? You've still got number one to go. Oh, God. Anyway, you know what the point I'm making. Steven Seagal's quite a good guitar player, but he's only good because he's really good at Aikido. And so you can't think that he's a great guitar player just because he can string a guitar solo together. Now, Prince is a little bit better than Steven Seagal on guitar, but not that much better. But just because Prince is a big pop star and he's got all that stuff going for him, don't assume he's a really good guitarist. What? Yeah. Then I've left the door open. You wait there, you lot. Bloody hell. We're at number one. Killed it. You've killed it, Andy. You've killed it. You and your bloody old man's brain. Oh, I do apologise. I apologise. We got to number 1 now anyway. Where's my list? So at number 1, the most overrated guitarist in the history of mankind, definitely, without a doubt, is the one that's going to upset the most people, which is why he's number 1, because so many people think he's great. And they're going to have all their reasons for thinking he's great. But he is just a good guitarist. He's not a bad guitarist at all. He's just a good guitarist. And I'm going to explain to you why I think he has come into this position, right? And it is, of course, Mr. David Gilmour.
I wasn't gifted with enormous speed on the guitar, and there were, years when I was younger when I thought I could get that if I practiced enough, but just wasn't ever really going to happen. And some of the influences on me, like even the Shadows back in the 60s, Hank just playing a tune. And I think I come from there.
The posh boy in the posh band that is Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd that was so posh that they got a record deal in 1966, even though they were just weird. But they did have Syd Barrett, and Syd Barrett was anyone who owns a record label would know, was the potential to be a great pop star, especially with his quirky pop songs that he wrote. But of course, he succumbed to the, rock and roll madness, didn't he? And by the time they got to the second album, he was gone. So the posh boys that were the other ones, Richard Wright, what's the name? Roger Waters, and of course Nick Mason. Nick Mason being the most poshest in Pink Floyd. I think he's minor royalty and he owns a castle. And so they went back to their prep school and said, is there anybody who can play the guitar? And of course Dave Gilmour was there, wasn't it? They pulled him in. And he was one of those posh boys that had discovered the blues. So he got some blues lyrics down. And he joined the band and they faff around doing their psychedelic weirdness, But because they're posh, and they've got contacts in the music industry, because they also know how to organise themselves. I mean, if they'd have put together a firm of, say, accountants, they'd have done very well, wouldn't they? That's basically what Pink Floyd are. And they're able to spin this record deal out, even though they're making albums that are full of nothing that has any commercial potential and nothing that's truly avant-garde. It's just weird psychedelic noodlings and one album after the other, and that slowly forms as they slowly get their act together. And believe it or not, Roger Waters actually turns out to be a very good songwriter as well, with a lot of vision. And they're not great singers. They're not great anything Pink Floyd. It's weird because they're the one prog band that don't have that sort of virtuosity level of the others, right? But I love Pink Floyd, okay? And Pink Floyd sort of eventually develop. They go from this avant-garde sort of stuff, which I'm a bit like, I don't know whether this is proper avant-garde stuff, but it's interesting. They can be very interesting. Some of it is quite. I think at the time, the thing with Pink Floyd was when the album was becoming a thing, people would buy records and they'd listen to anything because it was in stereo. And they'd go, I can't bloody believe this. I mean, that was over there, it's over there now, I can't believe it. I know it's doing my head in. And so anybody could go in the studio, get a few delay lines, a few microphones and rattle something and then walk around and go, woo, and they go, woo, over here, like, I can do it now, like, and then, well, you're not impressed, are you? You're not sat there thinking this is genius. But of course, in 1969, you did. And Pink Floyd were able to keep going like that, making an awful album like Gilmour, which is just a load of rubbish. Then the songwriting starts to kick in. And you get this magical period where they got that sonic experimentation, but they've also got the weight of this songwriting. And within that, there's these perfunctory places for guitar solos. And if you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, there's not that many guitar solos on there, is there? And then suddenly, off the back of that, they then go down to this sort of middle-of-the-road dad rock, don't they? And it starts with Wish You Were Here. Now, Wish You Were Here is a great album. It's like the rock version of Horlicks. Do you know what Horlicks is? If you're American, did you have Horlicks in America or in other foreign countries? We have it here. It's like cozy, nice rock music. It's moving and it's the music. It's the music, you know. And once you've got someone going, oh, that is boring and very depressing, you know, they're seesawing back between those two chords, and you got so much money, they got the best engineers in the world, and you're stuck in Abbey Road for about 6 months, and everything sounds perfect. And then you plug your guitar in, and you play your guitar solo. Now, he has got a nice touch. Gilmour's got a nice touch, but really, it is just perfunctory. I've used that word a lot today, and I've liked it, because when you're talking about overrated, that's what it is. Now, why would I pick on Dave Gilmour? You don't understand. You don't have to be all chopsy, Andy. You don't have to be all chopsy to be a good guitarist. Sometimes it's about the emotions. Well, let's say that is. Right? Well, you're a fool if you think that just because you play fast, there's no emotion there. Mozart, have you written any fast stuff today? I have, actually. There's no emotion there, mate. But I'm the greatest composer that's ever lived in the history of mankind, so I assume there's some emotion in there because I'm a genius. Doesn't matter, mate. It's fast. You know, when you get into the 20th century, anybody who plays fast, that means there's no emotion. Fast music cannot have emotion in, right? That's what the idiots think. Now, they really think it because they might play a little bit of guitar themselves, and they don't want to realise that they are absolutely rubbish. So they want to be able to listen to players like that. You know, they've only had to learn the bloody rock pentatonic and bend a few strings, and they think they're bloody geniuses. And that's what happens, you know. And that is really what's going on with here. Now, Gilmour does have a nice touch. And also, he has this, doesn't he? Which I know the fans of this channel like very much. He has this, doesn't he? You know that one? He does that. Now, I probably can't do that because it is hard. I don't know how you would do it. So I do give him that. Gilmour's got that. Now, at the same time, the Gilmour's coming out. You've got Peter Green. You've got Paul Kossoff. Right? There's a whole host of guitarists at the same time. And in America, you've got guitarists like Billy Gibbons. I love all these guitarists. Right? Now, Billy Gibbons is a brilliant blues guitarist, but he's got more going on. Paul Kossoff is greater than Dave Gilmour because he's got his own vibrato going. He's got his own sound. There's so much more there. There's so much more there. Really like Kossoff. Gilmour was in there. If he wasn't hyped up, if nobody ever mentioned him to me all the time and said, oh, Gilmour. I mean, Rick Batto calls it the Gilmour effect. I mean, this is how big it is, isn't it? Gilmour is the one. And he stands there almost like as an emblem for average guitar players to justify what they do. That is the truth here. There's nothing wrong with Gilmour's guitar solos. If you like them, you like them. They are great, right? He does a similar type of guitar playing as Mark Knopfler does. And in fact, when Pink Floyd had gone rubbish, when they did The Wall and then the final cut, right, and we all wanted them to do a great Pink Floyd album, Dire Straits came out with Love Over Gold. You know that album? And side one of that is greater than any Pink Floyd album except for Dark Side of the Moon. And the thing with Mark Knopfler, and I've had a go at him, but the truth is, Mark Knopfler can really play the guitar. He's a monster. I know this, you know. It's like I can't play the riff to Money for Nothing. I can play the riff to Smoke on the Water. I can play the riff to Immigrant Song. But I couldn't play the riff to it's like mad Chet Atkins picking with all these things and strings. I can't do it, you know. I mean, Knopfler's great. Knopfler's great, right? It's not my thing when he can't half play the bloody guitar. And if you drop Knopfler in on a Pink Floyd session, right? Say, get Gilmour, just move out the way, put Knopfler in. It would be incredible, right? Now, you got to remember, by the time they got to The Wall, he'd run out of ideas. They got so much money. They sat there, you know, with all these amps, all these engineers, and they go, I can't really come up with guitar today. Well, who's a good guitar player? We can just get one of those good famous guitarists, Steve Lukather or Lee Ritenour. Well, Lee Ritenour's quite good. I quite like him. And then Lee Ritenour, do you want to come in and Pink Floyd is sat in the room and burning up like 50,000 quid a day at the moment. Do you want to come in and play some guitar solos that they can then get some inspiration off, which means rip off? That actually happened. This is what we're dealing with Gilmour. Now, the reason why, so my basic point is that even when it comes to blues guitarists, even when it's white blues guitarists at the same time, there's a raft of guitarists out there. Like any of the guys out of Lynyrd Skynyrd would be better. You know, any of those guys will be better at it. Mike Bloomfield could kill them. You know, there's a whole bunch of these guitarists out there Gilmour, there's nothing special about Gilmour. He would probably gesture to some sort of manservant and go, "Can you please remove this person from my vicinity?" And I would get taken out and thrown out onto the road by him. And if we went back to the feudal times, he would have probably dragged me into his square, and within his square, he would have probably tied me to a post and then humiliated me in a number of ways. Right? You hear that? My battery's running out. I have to stop now. It's at the end of the video time. It's taken so long to make this video that I'm really a bit behind schedule now. So I feel that I have argued my case, haven't I, with it. He's like a posh lord that plays a bit of blues guitar, but because he's got all these posh lord ways about him and his feudal kingdom of rock, he'll always come out on top. And the only person who can challenge him is equally posh but very communist and left-wing Roger Waters. And within those two, you have the great political divide that has tore this country apart for the last 100 years. All inside Pink Floyd, right? And whose side you're going to go on? Roger Waters, the lefty, or you're going to go on posh boy lord Dave Gilmour? And all you're going to get from him is nice guitar solos. All you're going to get from Roger Waters is politics. Nick Mason, who's the poshest of them all, he doesn't care because he's in a castle. So he doesn't even have to deal with these things. He's in his castle, and when you go inside his castle, he's just full of all his sports cars, right? Because he is actually, I believe he's related to some racing car driver. They're the poshest people in the world, racing car drivers. Except for Lewis Hamilton, he's not, but that's the new wave. But in the old days, you get someone like James Hunt or somebody like that. They were proper poshies, you know. They were aristocrats. Good English gentlemen. I don't mind Nick Mason. I met him once, but I've told that story. He didn't speak to me. I spoke to him and he just nodded like that. When I was speaking, I'm asking him, "Can you do it?" He just nodded up and down like this. He just didn't need to speak. They're very posh. They're very, very posh. Not as posh as Genesis. They are the poshest. Genesis, well, Mumford & Sons are the poshest, aren't they? I haven't got anything against poshies. I just haven't got anything against poshies. It's just, I think it needs to be pointed out. Because when we're talking about these people, we've got to understand where they come from. And if you're very upper class and posh, you're in a very small bracket in this country. And most of us don't come into contact with them at all. And if we do, we have to do that. And just my head, sir. Yes, sir. I like it when you go, woo, woo, woo. I really like it when you do that sound, sir. Very good. No, I don't think it's good. I know I was saying about Alan Holdsworth being good, but I don't think he's as good as you because there's no soul there, is there? It's just, you know, he just goes, widdly, widdly, doesn't he? Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Don't beat me, sir. Don't beat me, sir. I'll have my wife, you know, or the daughter. I don't care. Just leave me alone. I don't want you doing, you know, I don't know. What are you going on about? You sound like some sort of bloody anarcho, bloody communist yourself now. I'm actually not. Why I have to bring it in here, I do not know. We're done. So, that is the end of the video. I have come to the end of the video. That was my 10 seriously overrated guitarists. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit rambly, I know, a bit all over the place. I didn't have, because of the few hiccups that I've been having today with technical, you know, some technical issues that have been going on. You know, it's been all over the place, really. But I've done my best. It's a day's work. I'll finish now. I'm going to go home, take the video home, put it onto the old laptop. I'm then going to start editing it, pull it together. I'll be there all night doing it. I'm going to come in tomorrow, shoot some more, 3 more hopefully, and then that's the main channel's done then, and I can think what I'm going to do. On top of that, I'm trying to cut down the thing. I'm going to tell you this now. I am considering cutting down the amount of videos I'm doing. It's just too much, and I don't know whether people like it, you know, but I might have to take a hit on the views, and I don't know whether I can take the hit on the views. That's all serious stuff there. If I was Dave Gilmour, I wouldn't have to worry about that, because not only would I have my multi-millions from the Pink Floyd sales, but I was probably okay in the first place anyway. If you like this, put a like on it. If you want to see some more, subscribe. If you want to become a patron of mine, you can. The link is down below. You can become a free member. I've got 800 free members now. I've got 800 free patrons, right? And some of them pay. But we have a lot of fun there. That's the Andy Edwards world. So, well, I say we have a lot of them. They probably don't. Then you could go, put somebody in the old PayPal tip jar. You could go and join my Substack. I've got a Bandcamp with like 50 albums on. You go and listen to my music. What else do I do? Oh, I've got a membership here if you want to do that. Then you don't have to watch with, I don't know what they do. If you are a member, can you put in the thing, do you not have to have the adverts if you're a member? Because that's the main reason why I did it. I thought there's all this bloody adverts going on. I have to do it. That's how I can't. If I didn't get ad revenue, this channel, I'd just have to stop it now because I haven't got a job to support myself doing this. Yeah. Dave Gilmour will be all right. I was going to ask him for a bit of a handout because he's got loads, but I don't think he will now after this, will he? Not old Gilmour. Right, we're done. I'm going to finish. See you soon. Bye-bye. But the point is when they get there, right, there seems to be a power structure there, and that seems to be the enemy. But what you find out is not that. The real evil, the heart of Star Wars' evil is not the people who are running the show. It's the Dark Lord himself, Satan, Darth Vader. And we see Darth Vader at the start. We see Darth Vader and Princess Leia. We see purity, virginity, and we see Darth Vader all in one. Hello, welcome to this video. On this video, I'm going to be trying to explain the meaning, or at least the meaning how I see, of the film Interstellar that was made in 2014, directed by Christopher Nolan.
Come in, Lancaster. Are you bailing out?
Yes, Jude, I'm bailing out, but there's a catch. I've got no parachute.
Hello, and welcome to this video. And on this video, I am going to be ranking the films of Powell and Pressburger.
The bomb must never go off.
If you want to see a brilliant example of that, go and check out Freddie Starr telling the story to Muhammad Ali.
He opens the door and there's an old lady with a blanket around her and she's shivering.
Mm.